Hey, creative writing. It's Wednesday, April 8th, 2020. And today the lesson is going to be an overview of what creative writing is and your second writing prompt. So, what is this thing called creative writing? That's a good question. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Um, so often, creative writing gets put into a box of I'm going to write a story, and it has to be cutesy and happy ending, and that's it. But if you like reading or even watching movies or watching TV or seeing theater, maybe listening to music, reading comic books, the list goes on and on and on. All of those things are crafted and created by writers, by people who have stories that they want to tell. And I myself watch way more TV than I read. I think that the craft of screenwriting and script writing for a television series is unbelievable and so cool, which is why I like watching TV. I like paying attention to the story more than just binging it. It's for me, it's an art form. So that's what creative writing is. It's this idea that you get to dive in and tell stories. So you're in creative writing. Can it be taught? I certainly hope so. Otherwise, why would I be teaching this course? But better yet, can creativity be taught? That's always a debate that I have in my classes. Is it something that we're born with? Are there creative people and logical people and scientific people? I think that there's creativity as a spectrum, and there's different creative skills that people are good at. Like I'm good at coming up with stories, um, but I'm not as good of a problem solver, for instance, as some of my colleagues. But I'm really good at noticing things and turning them into interesting stories or jokes or diving into kind of a more fantastical world. But creativity can be so many different things, and there's so many different mediums. So this class isn't, I'm not trying to teach you how to be creative. I'm trying to teach you how to use the things that are already part of you and to foster those into new skills. So the chief enemy of creativity is good sense, according to Pablo Picasso. With creativity, you need to allow yourself to just take risks and try new things. And some of them are going to be weird, but that's awesome. And some things are going to be really, really cool and unexpected. And I mean, just there are no rules essentially. So balance is key in writing. Some writers master craft and churn out these exquisite, beautiful stories where the prose and the writing and the structure is so interesting and fantastical and beautiful and blah, 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 blah. But they're boring. So I think that's a lot of students experience in like English classes is, we give you these works of literature that are so praised and um, and important to history, right? That we honor them in this way. They're on a pedestal, but most kids read them and they're like, this is really boring. You're not alone. I also find some of those aspects of those texts dull in comparison to, watching Breaking Bad. But it's learning from those masters and understanding the skills and the foundation of good writing and then making it something that you find interesting. On the other hand, others can generate really, really, really exciting, profound ideas and stories, but their story has no shape or speaks to other people. So they're all ideas and no structure, or all structure and no ideas. And the goal is to find a balance. So underneath my picture there, it's supposed to say perseverance and hard work. Way more important than talent. This is something I really believe can be developed. All right, so everybody has something to express. You all have lives and experiences and stories going on in your heads, and my job is just to help you discover what those things are and to give you outlets to express them. For some basic definitions that we're going to be using in creative writing. First is fiction. The rules of fiction are as follows. Fiction is surprising yet convincing. It resists paraphrase. So in other words, if I summarize the story, would it cover everything? And hopefully the answer is no. Okay, there should be surprises and depth and details there that just can't be summarized. It contains sentiment, but does not fall prey to sentimentality, which we'll talk about. it's specific, there's conflict, and it features believable characters. We are going to dive into all of those different components separately, but those are that's the foundation of really great fiction. We will also be exploring micro and flash fiction, which are really, really short bits of fiction. So for instance, your 6-word memoir is nonfiction, but microfiction would be that short. Creative nonfiction, so taking an interview and turning it into a creative story, but it's still true. Poetry and drama or plays. So what do I mean by sentiment versus sentimentality? Sentiment is creating opinion and emotion and attitude towards something, which of course we want in a story. We want there to be opinions, and we want there to be emotions and attitudes because that's how conflict is created. But we don't want sentimentality. You don't want it to be excessive sadness or nostalgia or melodrama. That's, soap operas and things like that dive into all the drama all the time. And it's good. It's really fun to watch. But there's a beauty to subtlety too. So melodrama is extravagant, theatrical, where plot and physical actions replace genuine human beings. The character just becomes somebody who's being jerked around by drama and not because they are interesting. We don't want false emotions. We don't want extravagance. Otherwise, it doesn't feel like it's earned. So if you can find a balance between really, really good characters and a really dramatic story, you have something there. For example, I don't know who watches Grey's Anatomy out there, but that's an example of an incredibly dramatic series where the worst possible things are happening to these people all of the time, but people still have relationships with these characters. They feel like real human beings who are just being jerked around in this crazy world. Like, I don't know, so many horrible things have happened in Seattle, according to Grey's Anatomy. But you want to find good characters too. The drama's exciting, right? Like Grey's Anatomy would be boring if it was just normal medical cases every day and there weren't, I don't know, earthquakes and tsunamis and pier crashes and I don't know, millions of things have happened in that show. But you want to make sure that drama doesn't create stock responses or cliches. So that's where real characters come into play. If you want a reader to connect to your writing, then create a character they can connect with. That is the secret of all writing. It has to be a character that you are interested in, that they're detailed, that you want to learn more about them. If you think about any of your favorite television shows, movies, stories, it could be the most exciting plot in the world with magic or war or something. But if the characters that are involved are boring, you don't want to watch it anymore. Right? It's even think about video games. Like some of the best video games are the ones where you get to know the characters. I think about like Uncharted with Nathan Drake. He's a super likable, awesome character. Or The Last of Us with Joel. He's a really intriguing, deep character. So you have to choose characters and create characters who have depth that we can connect with them. To notice is to begin your writing process. So good writing comes from believing that what you notice matters, that there's some deeper truth worth considering, material to uncover, associations to pick up. I have always been a person who loves to people watch. I love to go to the park or state fair or the mall or a restaurant, and I'll get distracted because I start staring at people. But it's because I'm noticing all these different relationships and things that are happening. And I love seeing those little tidbits throughout the day and taking them and putting them in my brain and my memory and using them later. It's one of the reasons why I like being a teacher. I mean, not in like a creepy way, but our teachers are always watching you guys and making sure you're learning and making sure you're safe and that you're happy and everything's good. And to notice, little interactions that are goofy or silly between you guys is fun and interesting and just develops more and more stories that we are learning and noticing every single day. So I want you to do that. I know you're in quarantine, and that makes it harder, but maybe you're noticing things you didn't notice before about your family or your friends or your pets or your home or nature, your next door neighbor. Maybe they mow the lawn at a really weird time. Okay, maybe you're the older woman who lives across the street. You suddenly realize she's got like 15 cats. Who knows? And don't overwrite. Write in your most natural voice, the youest of you. I think the best writing comes from people who have found that voice, that it almost sounds like they're talking and telling a story. I don't need big, complex words and sentences and fluffy language unless that's how you write. If that's how you write and it's natural, it's going to be beautiful. But I don't write that way. I don't have a large vocabulary in my writing style. It's not how I like to write because it's not natural to me. So don't worry about having the most insane prose of your life. I want this to sound like you're telling the story. So this is your task. The task is I am a camera. I want you to start noticing things. So walk around your home or a safe quarantined place or 6 feet away from people outside. And quite simply, I want you to pay attention. Jot down what you observe, maybe a tense conversation, a curious expression, a new bag of groceries, an unclaimed sock, or even a pair of shoes you hadn't noticed before. How much can you notice? Record everything you can using as many senses as possible and don't interpret. We'll develop these images later. So essentially, if you're walking around and just like typing things into your phone or jotting it down on a piece of paper or even just storing it in your head, that's great. I'm not collecting this portion. The next portion is the writing prompt, but this task inspires the writing prompt. So once you've done this, you're developing it, and this is writing prompt number 2 that goes at the top of your page in your digital journal. Take one thing you noticed and develop a short narrative around it, a story. Okay, it can be a paragraph, it can be a page, whatever you end up writing is great. Maybe your character steals those super cool shoes. Maybe you know exactly why Blake was glaring at Joe. Maybe that unclaimed sock belongs to someone mysterious. Add detail and develop everything you noticed into something creative. Okay? You're putting this into your journal. All right. Remember that I will eventually be looking at journals, so make sure you're doing all of these writing prompts and just spend some time today paying attention and writing a narrative. All right. I'll see you later.